met someone who deserves the day the way that you do. Joseph, it's time to get ready and the spotlight's shining down upon you. Joseph, so be back, oh, from I'm on my way, yeah, here it comes. And I'm delivering a wish to you, so get ready, from every peak and valley they're telling you to get ready, 'cause here it comes. It's on the way. It's a celebration across the nation.
Joseph Jaffe is not famous. Me, Tom Arnold, I am very famous. I absolutely like, because it's very true. Like, I hadn't freaking heard of you until I was sitting on a Friday night. This is how bad my life is. Listen, fucker, good luck. Good luck with your rebranding. Like anybody knew what the name was before. What was the name? Okay, who gives a shit? That's a good name because it's got your name in it. You can pretend you're humble. You say, I'm not famous. And, which you aren't. So you're just, I mean, anyway, but I hope you get famous doing this. Good luck to you.
We are human, we are animals, we crave the ability to be we. I know it's called me, and we might have sounded differently, right?
Is it a disco now?
Yeah, it's the after party, so it's now we go with the flash.
My goal in life is to be a laptop sticker.
Me too.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.
It's a great honor, Mr. Jaffe. It's always nice to be with you.
I'm so happy to be with you. I'm honored.
Thanks for doing this too. It's a real service to the community.
What a great organization and a show that offers hope, optimism, creative solutions, entertainment.
Thank you for doing this, Joseph. It's your gift to the universe and it's appreciated.
Very human, and I like that.
Look at you! You are insane!
How did I do that?
You're insane!
Yes, yes, yes. All my famous friends coming out of the woodwork to espouse the virtues of my non-famousimity. But there is no one more famous than Jerod Morris, who is a partner and chief community officer for Movement Ventures, and he will move you shortly on the show. Glenn is here. He said, we'll be watching in my self-driving car tomorrow, but for today, sitting in my office in Baltimore. Well, thank you for supplying the million people watching right now with that critical information, Glenn. We all appreciate it, and we all are slightly jealous, just slightly, about the self-driving car that actually doubles up as an entertainment vehicle. Best time to watch the show is while you are being moved. See what I just did there, Jerod? While you're being moved from one place to another. Prestidigitateur is in the house, and she said, good evening to you too. Forget about good, it's Goog. It's Google. Google evening to you. Thank you. I not only am I important, I'm also exceptionally non-important or non-famous. I mean, why should I be famous when I had Dr. Sheena Mason, Kate Waldman, and tomorrow Seth Radwell on the show? I am truly, jokes aside, just humbled by these incredible guests. I'm humbled by little Nick Small, 13 years old, puts out an NFT collection, sells out when Steve Aoki, who is putting out his own collection right now, retweets him. This is a crazy, crazy world and crazy times. You're going to love the interview with Nick, and he will be on the show on Friday. And then I will be taking a little bit of a break. But before that, let's do a little bit of an update on the Jaffe coin. Why am I laughing? Well, I'm kind of laughing because this is where Jaffe was yesterday, and this is where Jaffe is today. In fact, I had someone calling me complaining about what was going on. why didn't I inform them? I was like, because I'm still trying to figure out. But the Jaffe coin is sitting in the, it might have dropped a little bit, but that's okay. It's sitting at $15. I had no idea. This is a true story. A couple days ago, I said to someone that my goal this year is to gently nudge the Jaffe economy and the Jaffe coin to $20. I had no idea that I would do it the next day. Well, not 20, but getting close. So when I give away Jaffe coin on the show, boy, oh boy, the value is going up. Today, I'll be giving away right now. In fact, I will be giving away. You see that QR code? Number 1 QR code. He do the wee woo. That QR code right now will give you 0.16 of a Jaffe, the first 16 people to use it to qualify for the airdrop. And oh, by the way, you need to own 16 Jaffe coin. Guess what? Tomorrow you'll be getting 0.17, the first 17 people, and you need to hold 17 Jaffe coin. So we are gamifying engagement. How about that? This is gamifying engagement, and everyone is absolutely welcome. And I will keep that QR code up in my not famous Discord. For those of you that are new to the show, join this Discord. You will not regret joining this Discord, because the Discord is not famous, and neither am I, obviously. But by doing that, there will be other things. In fact, by subscribing to the show, by joining the Discord, by pasting your YouTube username into the giveaways channel, you will be able to also qualify to win an NFT every single week. And this week, in fact, not this week. This week, I'm giving away all of these, including today, a diamond dog. So, shall we get to it? Shall we give away that diamond dog? Do I need some diamond dog music? How about the theme song? Yeah, there we go. This is the theme song. So I am going to share my screen with the wheel of names, and pick someone randomly to win. Let's do that. I'm going to put it on screen. So proud. And hear a scream without a sound while everyone is still around. You can watch me dance by myself. Oh, Lubna, it's so close. Keith Adelcy, you won yourself a diamond dog. Lubna, oh, wait a second. Oh, it's because it removed Keith. Sorry, I didn't want to get you all excited there. I thought maybe you did win. But Lubna, maybe next time I will make sure that there is a next time. Contact me, Keith, and we will make sure that you get your diamond dog. So that's what we do here. We have a little bit of fun. One of the things that I've always said is if you want to understand technology, if you want to understand change, you really have to be a part of it. You have to experience, you have to experiment, you have to be prepared to fail. You have to kind of, play around even with my unbelievable production team of one, and change and do the wheel of names and do live drawing and do live minting. I'm minting live. I'm buying from OpenSea live every Friday. But one of the things that I also did to push myself out of my comfort zone was to move from actually writing a script and reading a script for my seated soliloquy and actually move to just talking off the cuff, just talking, from my heart. And so I am going to choose that music and talk to you about something that Jerod actually put in his briefing document, or in the briefing document. And he spoke about this idea of DAOs or DAO-like. And then I thought, wait a second, are you a DAO or aren't you a DAO? To DAO or not to DAO? Is that the question? But maybe another question is this idea of what is it to be DAO-like? What is it to be socialist-like? What is it to be community-like? Is that a cop-out? Are you hedging? Well, I don't think so, because actually what I've realized is when you when you dive headfirst into something, like if you dive headfirst into a swimming pool and there's no water in the swimming pool, you're going to hit your head, crack your skull, and probably die. Don't do that. It's dumb. It's stupid. You know, sometimes going all in too soon can be as bad as sitting on the sidelines and procrastinating and waiting for anyone else to make the first move. I always use this analogy when talking about change. A train is hurtling at 400 miles per hour, and the conductor gets word that there's a bridge that the train has to cross, but the bridge is down. What do? Well, if you pull the emergency brake, the all stop, the train will derail and people will die. And if you actually slow down too slowly, if you take your time, you may actually end up going over the bridge. So people die if you move too slow, people die if you move too fast. What's the answer? And the answer, it's an exercise in brainstorming. You can tell me in the comments what you think the answer is. How do you survive in that situation? Is there a happy ending? But for me, when I think about very specifically this idea of DAOs, I'm not sure DAOs are the answer. Or at least I'm not sure we are ready for DAOs right now. I'm not sure we are ready. I'm not sure we are ready to be able to truly democratize decision-making, compensation. Some of it sounds great, theoretically. Some of it sounds very idealistic or altruistic. But until the people that actually implement and execute are as idealistic, altruistic, act with integrity and full transparency, that they're on popularity contests, that there isn't politics in decision making. Guess what? There are politics everywhere. Until that happens, maybe the goal is to be more DAO-like and less like DAOs. Maybe the answer is to find the best of the old and combine it with the best of the new. Maybe the answer is to run a company with DAO-like principles, as opposed to running a DAO with corporate or company-like principles. So just a few things to think about when we imagine or reimagine community. Will we be community-focused, community-obsessed? Will we be community-like? How do we achieve the utopian ideals which are worth striving for and ascribing to? As Fanzo would say, as my friend Fanzo would say, we is greater than me. But to actually achieve it, well, that's going to take a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of self-sacrifice, a lot of trial and error, a lot of failure. But I do believe that we can get there at the end of the day. And now we don't need to get anywhere because it's time to bring Jerod onto the show. Prestidigitateur said, "Who Let the Dogs Out" is a better song for this giveaway. No doubt. Well, I've already sang "Who Let the Dogs Out" and I've already sang "Who Let the Cats Out" when Carol Baskin came on the show. So you will forgive me that there will be no songs other than the pop song for Jerod, because you know what people don't realize about this man is he's a little bit of a rock star, you know, or maybe an aspiring rock star. More on that soon. Jerod Morris has been building online communities since 2008. Today, he is the Chief Community Officer for Movement Ventures, where he and partners, Brian Clark, who's been on the show before, and Trudy Roth, who hasn't been on the show yet, helps freelancers and solopreneurs build successful online businesses while living their best life at midlife. Sounds like a great compromise to me. He's also the founder and CEO of the Back Home Network, a sports and culture community serving fans and alums of Indiana University. His life philosophy is a simple balance, pride, and humility, which he tries to do every day. Let's welcome him onto the show. Jerod Morris, welcome.
It's great to be here. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, let's start. Let's start with balancing pride and humility. How does one find the balance, and what happens when maybe you err too much to the one side? How do you check yourself that that humility hasn't become hubris or arrogance or perceived arrogance? I'm sure in your case, never. But how do you do that?
No, in my case, often. That's one of the reasons why it's a really meaningful concept to me. I just think as I've obviously met people and worked with people and tried to study what makes people successful. You often see in successful people a certain level of confidence, and sometimes that confidence can even border on arrogance. In their own ability. In sports, to step up and make the play. In business, to step up and make the decision, to be the person who's up on the stage. But if that runs unchecked, well, now are you going to listen to people? Are you going to be a good teammate? Are you going to be able to work in groups and work cooperatively? All skills that are getting more and more important, as the economy changes, as society changes. And so the ability to combine, that pride, which is kind of that catch-all term, with humility and the ability to realize that you don't have all the answers and you need other people, that to me is the sweet spot. And if you go too far in that direction, and you are always deferring to other people and you're meek and you're not going to step up because you don't recognize the power of your own voice or what you have to contribute, well, that can be just as damaging. So to me, that sweet spot is always right in the middle, where you have just enough of that pride and that confidence to step up and deliver the messages and, the work that you're meant to do. But enough of that humility to recognize that everything is always more meaningful when it's done together, when it's done with a team, and that there's always something else and someone else that you can be learning from.
I think there's a lot in that. And a little shout out to my mom who's watching in South Africa, and I will be seeing her next week, which I'm looking forward to. So hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
She makes sure that keeps me honest as well. So there are a couple of interesting things. One is you need a degree of pride. You need a degree of let's say perceived arrogance, confidence. You've got to have that, otherwise you become too submissive. You become too humble. Is a wallflower that fades into obscurity. The other thing is maybe we need to stop talking about balance and instead talk about sweet spot. When we think about, home life, or homework balance, all this, it's not balance. You can never balance. I mean, we're always, like, how do you balance working an 80-hour week? How do you balance being unemployed? It's not about balance. It's about finding a sweet spot where you can coexist and be able to maybe get the best of both of those worlds, to create a sanity.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, because when I first kind of thought about this, I always did think about it in terms of balance, but I think that's the wrong metaphor. To me, the right metaphor for it really is like a canoe. Like if you're in a canoe or you're in a kayak, it's not about balance. You're paddling on one side and then you start to go, the nose of the kayak starts to drift a little bit more. So you balance on the other side and you balance, or so you paddle on the other side, and you're just constantly kind of paddling on both sides. And you're just kind of trying to keep that nose going in the direction that you want to go. And so that's kind of always, spoken more to me. And I just find it at certain times in my life, I'm usually drifting to one side. And thinking about that and kind of helping that, guide my next decision or next action has always just kind of been helpful and keeping me on the path that I want to go.
I would add two thoughts to that. One is this idea of continuous course correction, right? Mm-hmm. It's a nice alliterative.
Yes.
And the other one is dynamism. That whole continuous course correction is a very dynamic, fluid, kind of active state of mind, as opposed to, again, the passive one or the reactive one. So amazing what comes out in just trying to take a moment to see words that pop in a bio, or in a tweet. A lot can come out in a tweet. First of all, I thought I had erred when I was promoting the Move coin, which then I was like, wait a second, the Move coin is not Jerod's, it's Brian Clark's. I think I completely messed up, and then I realized, wait a second, this is something that Jerod asked me when I said, what do you want to promote? Support the Move coin and the coin collective Discord. And then I was like, what is going on here? And then you told me, like, don't worry about it because it's a coin that I share with Brian. And then I was like, wait a second. Not only am I not going to apologize, but I'm going to take you to task, young man, because you are double dipping. You are now double dipping in 2 coins. You're getting double the pleasure, double the fun, double the rally or the rewards that come from a double mint. I'll just stop there. Exactly. Excellent.
Yes. Hey, Brian and I launched MoveCoin together, back in the end of January of last year. And, it was a good experience. And another project that I've been working on, really seemed like it was ripe, to support a coin as well. And so was able to get that one on the Rally Network, and it's working really well too. So, and the nice thing is, what I learned with one, I can apply it to the other and vice versa. And so it's been kind of nice having, 2 different ones. It can be a challenge sometimes, because you'd like to be able to focus your attention all on one. But I think what I learned with the 2 different audiences has been really helpful. And by the way, before we get too far down this, can I just say something? I've been watching in the green room how you're hosting this and what you're doing with StreamYard. And this first 15 minutes to me has been like a masterclass in how to use StreamYard and how to put a show like this together. From your intros to the way that you structured it. I have taken notes already. I plan on stealing some of this stuff that you're doing. I really, it's been really, really educational. So this has been, I love the way that you have this set up.
When you basically say things like that, the voice of God says, let's just make him full screen. Let's give him full air horn. Let's give him all the love. No, I appreciate that. I did kind of mess up the, right now I made myself the hero position only because, now I'm going to get revenge on you for embarrassing me by talking about all these fun facts about you. Let the world know who the real Jerod Morris is. So,
oh boy,
exactly, and you better believe it, because here's what we found out about you. Number one, we found out that you once made seven 3-pointers in a high school basketball game. And nothing is cooler than bragging about your high school sports accomplishments. So,
no doubt.
You also seem to be able to move your head around like The Exorcist. So like, are you still flaunting that now in midlife?
I can look, when you grow up in Indiana, the home of basketball, you can always shoot the ball. So I could step out on a basketball court right now and shoot it. Couldn't do much else. Having a couple of kids and some other things has given me too many excuses to not stay in the kind of shape I need to stay in. But I could still step out there and shoot it a little bit.
One of the things I've loved doing is coming up with book titles or book ideas for my guests. And so I think the next book, your next book is going to be called You Can Always Shoot the Ball. Actually, there's a very interesting idea about you can always shoot the ball. You can always shoot the ball, but will you score? You can always shoot the ball, but will you hit a 3-pointer, right? You can always shoot the ball, but will you hit 7 3-pointers as well? And the flip side for it, which is, I'm just going to lay out all the chapters for you, is how many people don't actually shoot the ball? How many people never take the risk, never take the chance?
That's right. My dad got me a poster for my room when I was a kid. And also a little paperweight. So he was really trying to reinforce this message. It said, you always miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
Right.
Which, when you actually think about that, is somewhat problematic. But the big idea of it was very inspirational to me, and I took it to heart.
Well, the other one is 99% of all short putts never go in the hole. And probably the 1% was Tiger Woods. Remember in the Masters when that ball just stopped and that Nike swoosh like willed it in.
Yes.
Here's something else that we found out about you, which is in another life, you are definitely the lead singer of a pop rock band. So maybe this
look
band,
at that.
We never know. I think you look pretty good in this one, actually.
I like it. Yeah, the irony there is I can't sing. So it's certainly never going to happen.
Nor could AC/DC.
Well, That's true. That is true. But it's always, for some reason, like if I'm at a place where there's karaoke, I find that to be incredibly entertaining and fun to do. And I just think that would be, I think it would be really fun. I think I might actually be okay at it if I could actually sing, but it's not going to happen in this lifetime, but maybe in another one.
You never know. But there is one more fun fact about you, which actually is like really, really interesting to me. I was fascinated because I was in it. I was one of the first marketing bloggers, my cohort maybe in the world back in 2005. And it turns out that I had no idea, were in the center of the whole bloggers versus journalists debate. So I would love for you to just recap, give a quick synopsis of this debate, because I felt it and we heard of it in marketing, in PR. I mean, this was a big deal back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to think back to what the context was like then, because the lines have become so blurred. But back then, this was 2008. I had started a sports blog called Midwest Sports Fans, which was basically just a place where I wrote about sports and the teams that were interesting to me, and didn't have a real big audience at the time. And this is where, it was kind of the first time when, okay, so I can just start a blog and I can put my thoughts out here. And, so I'd had this ongoing debate with guys in my fantasy baseball league about this player, Raul Ibanez, who was off to this really hot start, and he happened to be on my team. And of course, if you think back then, this is, back during, the performance enhancing drug scandals in baseball. And so the guy in my league is like, well, clearly he's juicing. That's why he's off to this hot start. I was like, well, maybe not necessarily, So I wrote this really long post, like trying to outline all these different reasons. Well, maybe it's because he just moved to the National League and different park effects, like why it was total sports nerd stuff, which I love doing. And I kind of put a little bit of a provocative headline on there because I wasn't, this narrative was kind of out there, right? Like any older player who was having an abnormal season, well, he's got to be on steroids, And so, my actual post was really fair intentionally. Like, okay, here's the narrative that's out there. Let's go through all these reasons that could disprove it. And I just got to the end and basically said, I don't know. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Major League Baseball hasn't been testing for this stuff, so they kind of leave it to us to figure this out. And so kind of left it open-ended. And, so it ended up getting caught up in this kind of internet game of telephone where like someone emailed it to this journalist at the Philadelphia Inquirer and said, hey, this blogger is accusing Raul Ibanez of using steroids, right? Which I never did. And so then he goes and says to Raul, without reading the post, goes and says to Raul Ibanez, hey, did you hear about this blogger, right? When the term blogger was just like the most derogatory term, for someone who writes, this blogger.
Yeah, he's clearly living in the basement of
right.
mom and pop's home.
So funny that you bring that up because I believe Raul Ibanez said that exact same thing. Some guy that's living in his mom's basement, I'll pee in a cup, I'll do whatever. And it just became this big thing. And I remember I even like it, I took it personally. I felt bad because I never meant to like accuse him. Like the actual post I thought was really fair. But then, he had to address it. And actually, like I wrote him a letter. I was trying to like make a personal connection with him. I never heard back. But anyway, so I got on Outside the Lines and, Ken Rosenthal and John Gonzalez, who I've later like connected with and, they were cool, but they kind of ambushed me and, kind of tried to make me look bad. Like, here's this blogger that's just out here tossing out these irresponsible accusations. It's like, well, okay, that is not at all what happened, but it really kind of spurred this debate of like, okay, what should we take seriously on, these blogs that just anybody can have? And, what was really interesting is, there were other like journalists who were accusing him in much more like straightforward ways than anything that was in my post. But it was just, I think at the time, a lot of the people who were in the traditional journalism had these traditional spots felt a little bit threatened by, wait a minute, like this guy can come out here, write this, 2,500 word post that's well researched, that's well written, can get attention. they're kind of coming up on our block a little bit. And so there was kind of this big debate about it, you know, and that certainly wasn't the only, you know, story or instance of that debate. But I was, you know, I was happy to be part of it, because I think, you know, the democratization of being able to put that information out there, I think, has been a good thing. It was just kind of ironic that I got pulled into it for that particular post because, you know, it was a lesson to me in how things can get framed, where the truth is right here. Like everybody who read it was like, okay, wait a minute, that's not really what he said at all. But because it was framed in this certain way, you know, it took on a life of its own.
Well,
so in that sense, it was very frustrating.
Well, I mean, and there's certainly a play on the word framed as well, but
Yeah.
but there's an acute laziness when it comes to sensationalist headlines, link baiting, and often it's done intentionally. But
Yeah.
the ability to just go a little bit deeper and read the full reveal and read the full text. I mean, I would argue today, and then we'll kind of like, it's a very interesting fast forward to present times. But I would argue that today that many journalists are not acting like journalists. Many
Yes.
journalists are not journalists anymore in terms of presenting unbiased, objective, independent, both sides of the argument. Many of the cable news networks, and, you know, intentionally use cable news networks and the other one, are sensationalist, you know, talk shows. And
Yeah.
but then on the flip side, look at Web3 now, which is suddenly it's like, who's that Jaffe, you know, who's that Jaffe imposter, you know, talking about NFT collections? He's no collector. He's not an artist, or he's not a, you know, I could just write, you know, it's the same arguments as well when it comes to almost pigeonholing innovation and progress into a bucket, saying you can't play in this bucket because you know you don't belong here. And of course now we see that all, I suppose, all happening all over again.
Yeah, I mean, anytime there is, you know, an incumbent class that has kind of been around and built a foundation and kind of carved out their niche, there's a natural tendency toward defensiveness when new people kind of come up and have a new perspective, or, you know, are putting a spin on what you're doing and end up targeting the same audience. And I think as online content creators, and especially, you know, I think about everything in terms of community. You know, and I don't know, maybe that's to my detriment sometimes that I'm not more competitive, you know, but I think that's the better way to be. Like, you know, in the, you mentioned the Back Home Network. So it's this content network that we have for fans of Indiana University sports. And it started because I started with a couple of my co-hosts, we started a post-game show like 10 years ago. You know, just started it. It was kind of a new niche for us. And that's kind of become our thing, right? Like, we do a post-game show. And as we've done it, like, other post-game shows have started and failed. And there's, you know, some other podcasters that are in the niche, you know, they kind of started doing this post-game Twitter Spaces, you know, kind of in direct competition with us. You know, one of the guys texted me, it's like, so these guys are doing a post-game show, huh? And, you know, my initial gut instinct is like, screw them. Like, this is our corner. This is what we do. But I always try to think, okay, but what's best for the audience? And what's best for the audience is competition and new perspectives. And if what these new people are doing is better than us and serving the audience in a better way, and that's actually better for the audience, then they should go there. And it should motivate us to get better and make sure that we're serving the audience in a way that they want to, you know, stay here with us. And I think to a certain extent, going through that process in 2008 kind of helped to form that, you know, that thought for me. You know, because I've been in various positions of being the new upstart trying to carve out an audience, and then the incumbent who's trying to hold on to an audience and can feel threatened by the new ones. And ultimately, to me, if you keep your focus on the audience, it helps to keep all that stuff in perspective.
Yeah, and listen, unless you're Coca-Cola, right? Unless you are a brand that truly does serve and can serve, and whose goal is to serve the entire world,
Yeah,
there is always going to be place for an additional player. And I
Yeah.
think when you actually approach that ethos, which is, and it's funny because you're stretching me at the moment, which is feeling a bit painful, but I'm like on the rack. But But what's interesting is we say, oh, this time, Web3, it's all about collaboration. It's all about the sharing. It's all about, we versus me. It's all about the rising tide. And it is, but at the same time, there needs to be a role for healthy competition.
Yes.
And so that's another thing, which is it's the sweet spot versus the balance that actually says, sure, there are other competitors. You're a competitor of mine theoretically because you're on the Rally network, but we don't act that way. But instead, what we do is we push each other and we challenge each other to be better. It's funny because today's actually World Innovation Day. And innovation by definition is, there is an element of disruption and discomfort as well. So I love the new thinking as well, which is almost to rethink community, but in a more competitive light where it actually still reconciles. It's a good thought, I think.
I'm only here to steal your secrets and then use them against you for how you're hosting this great show. So the competition is on.
Well, and I'm deferring back to you. I'm Tai Chiing you because I'm like, this is your insight, right? Yeah. All I do is reframe. Let's get into community for a second, because not for a second. Let's get into community. I found 2 quotes. Normally, I find just 1 quote for my guests, and I found 2 because I think they represent different arguments. And I know you have a point of view on both of them. And it's specifically talking about online communities and digital communities. So let's start with this one, which made me sad. It said, online communities are an expression of loneliness. And this is from Joanne Harris. And I wanted to get your thought on what was your take on your takeaway. How would you address someone who raises their hand? You're delivering a keynote and they say online communities are an expression of loneliness. It's for people who, I guess, can't get together in the real world.
Gosh, online communities are an expression of loneliness. There is definitely a link between online communities and loneliness. There's no question. And there's, I think an epidemic of loneliness in our society, even as we become more connected and we have more ways to connect with each other. For whatever reason, the ways that we use them and sometimes the way that the tools use us makes us feel more disconnected and lonely. But I don't look at online communities as an expression of loneliness. I look at it as an antidote to loneliness. I look at it as a response to loneliness. I look at online communities and the ways that they continue to grow as, people are seeking connection. And online communities provide that connection. They provide the initial connection because of some shared interest or some shared goal. But then ultimately, you're just bringing people together that share some kind of worldview, and the relationships become deeper. Like we have a community for the Back Home Network. And, it started out just as people listening to a podcast, and then people who would come to our live chats and we would do the show. And now we have a mighty network. And all these people came because we wanted to talk about this basketball team that we like, but I was just up in Bloomington for our annual meetup a couple of weeks ago, and me and one of my co-hosts and then one of our community members that we met in person for the first time, and his fiance, who isn't even a member of the community, she just came with him. We're there for 2 hours sharing this great meal and becoming friends and talking about everything but basketball, because it became more than that. We're people who are seeking connection, and we found that. And so, I think there's a lot of truth in this quote, but that term expression, that to me doesn't hit right. There's a lot with online communities that deals with loneliness, but I think it's more that it's a reflection of some of the loneliness that we do feel, but it helps us to overcome that. And really, when done right, can really bring people together in beautiful ways.
Yeah, and I think that response was a beautiful, beautiful response. Also, I remember even back in the day, in the first, 1.0 or virtual worlds with Second Life, we used to say virtual avatars, real connections or real relationships, because the feelings you felt were very, very real, even though the environment was not necessarily. So now it's also interesting because there are specific solutions and antidotes, and this is one thing that you talk about, and we'll get to and we'll get to well and wealthy in a moment. But you talk about education, motivation, and accountability, and having ongoing accountability interactions with people you've committed to increases your odds to a whopping 95%. But I think it's not just the online community and the connection, but it's actually very much an active one where there is a proactive intent to see things through, as opposed to just, the ether or the ephemeral nature of a tweet or a comment on a message board.
Oh, 100%. I think the best online communities come together because people have a shared objective. I always like to think of it, with most online communities, to get people in, you want to promise some kind of transformation, right? And so maybe through education or through, some sort of workshop or, through something that you're going to do in the beginning, you help people achieve a transformation. Like with, the Unemployable Initiative, which is the community that we have for freelancers and solopreneurs at Movement Ventures. It starts with the 7-figure small intensive course, which teaches you how to build an audience-based business, right? Using a curation model. Okay, how do you build an audience that's going to then teach you what products and services you should sell? And so that initial transformation is, you're going to go from somebody with a vague idea for what audience and business you're going to build to really having a detailed blueprint for what this is going to look like. And that's the kind of transformation a lot of people want. But then it's okay, now if you're going to do this right, maybe you have an email newsletter and you're going to need to put this thing out every single week. And then you're going to need to market it and get it out there and distribute it and build the audience and learn from the audience. And there's all this ongoing work that needs to take place. Well, if you have a group of people that are continuing to go through that can help you take that transformation and then, turn that into ongoing achievement and ongoing goal. And so we have weekly accountability meetings. We do hot seats, to help each other with difficult questions. And then we just do happy hours to get together and hang out and talk and build the relationships. Because of that relationship, if you and I see each other's face on Zoom once a week and we get to know a little bit about each other, and I know what you struggle with and you know what I struggle with, and there's a little bit of vulnerability shared there. Well, when I see you in our weekly accountability thread, say that you want to, switch your domain this week and you don't really know how to do it, and I have expertise there, I may be more likely to give you 15 minutes to help that happen. And the relationships deepen and we help each other, move toward the goals that we're going to be achieving. And that's what online communities can do. And you're right, even though it's virtual, the connections can really feel real and the results can really feel real.
And I think you really,
they don't just
feel real, they are.
No, you're right, they are. And sometimes, you meet in person and it like fully solidifies it, and you can almost, there's obviously something special about meeting in person, but with all the ways that we have to connect now, you really can get those real connections. And when we have that, and when we're accountable, not just to the goals that we have, but we also feel accountable to this other group of people that we're going through it with, it really helps everybody get to where they want to go.
It was funny. I was actually in a conversation the other day in Gary Henderson's community, and they were all celebrating the fact that a bunch of his giraffe owners had met in, I think it was Amsterdam, and a couple had flown in from neighboring countries, and they all actually met and went out for sushi, 4 of them together, and they all celebrated that, and it was worth celebrating. But I kind of came with I was like, I have no interest in meeting in IRL. Like, I mean, it would be nice, but like, I have no interest in meeting. Like, I'm happier that we have this time together today, Jerod, than this desire, which is we must go out for a drink. We have to hug each other, or high five each other. Like we simply got to network and swap business cards. Like, I have no desire to do that anymore. Is it just me? Maybe I lived through the power of the meetup, back in the day, but now I'm like, this is fine. This is better than fine.
It is.
I know my view is different to most people.
Well, no, but there's a kernel of truth there, and that I don't think we need it, right? Like we can get on Zoom and we can do all these different things. So I don't think we need to meet in person to be able to connect. But there's a different kind of connection when you meet in person, and so I think it can add to it. And I mean, it's probably one of my favorite things, with people that I've developed relationships with online or have, built a community with, to actually meet in person. It does add another layer then to the relationship once it goes back to online. Like there's something there that feels a little bit deeper. So
Well,
I think there's room for both for sure.
I assume I will be meeting you at CEX in May, which
Oh,
is
yes.
which is Brian Clark's and Joe Polizzi's conference. So to hell with virtual, we will give each other that bear hug.
Yes, absolutely. Are you going to produce some live episodes from CEX?
If Brian would actually return my DM, ouch, zing, 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 zing. But yeah, no, I would love to actually. The plan would be hopefully to do the show live, and figure out something to do like that's kind of special to bring people in and moving through and etc. So watch this space if you are planning on coming to CEX. And now Brian is going to have to be accountable because it's out there.
That's
So,
right. It is out there now.
okay, so now let's talk about the positive. It's not that one at all. Oh damn! I've got to go find it. I knew I missed something. Let me go and find it as well. You see, things happen and mistakes happen all the time. So maybe you're gonna take away the compliments. You're gonna be like that. That amateur. How about this one? Online hierarchies are inherently dynamic. The moment someone stops adding value to the community, his or her influence starts to wane. And this is from one of the, innovation, godfathers, Gary Hamel and futurists. I love this one. What do you take away from it?
I love it too. I think it's 100% true. You have to participate. You have to be part of what's going on. Actually, one of my big challenges I have felt like over the past few months is really overcommitting. And there's been so many fun communities to get into. And obviously there's a big incentive in Web3. You get in early, and there can really be some big rewards. And I kept finding all these projects that were really interesting to get into and learn from. And I'm trying to build the Move community and the Home community. And again, part of that is trying to see what other people are doing and take little bits and pieces from that. And there's a couple of them that, I was participating a ton early and, kind of became, like a super mod in one of them and like got these roles because it's like, wow, you're really adding value. And now, some other things have come up. Like I've gotten busy with some other things and, you have to keep your priorities in line. And I kind of don't feel the same sense of authority in those communities now because I've been away. So I don't know exactly what's going on as much. There's new people in there who don't know me. And so my influence has started to wane, as this quote says. And that can be really frustrating because it kind of feels like, man, I got to be in there every day to keep doing stuff. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, if your goal in an online community, is to move up that hierarchy and to have authority and to be someone that people look to that they can count on, you need to be someone they can count on. And that means being present. So, and I think that's where it is important to, you want to try to experience a lot of different online communities, I think, to find the ones where you fit. But then it can be good at some point to really figure out, okay, where are the ones I really want to invest a lot of my time, and go there. So I fully agree with that. And I think it's something interesting also for online community leaders to think about.
There's a lot in there. And I love the simplicity of this idea of if you want to be someone that people can count on, you have to be someone they can count on. You have to deliver. But I also love the fact that influence is not looked at statically, right? Which is, oh, they're an influencer. They have 1 million followers. It's like, no, your influence is based on what you do as opposed to what you say.
Yes.
So one of the things that you are doing is, and again, I have to take issue, which is who is in their midlife right now. The young man in front of me cannot be going through anything midlife at the moment. But let's talk about well and wealthy. It's not just a community for midlife reinvention. It's talk a little bit about the who, the why, the what, the where. The floor is yours.
Yeah. So Well and Wealthy spawned from Further, which is a newsletter that Brian Clark started, gosh, like 5 or 6 years ago. And so Brian and I worked together at Copyblogger, and I left Copyblogger and was kind of doing some different things. And actually, I loved Further. Further is about, okay, health, wealth, wisdom. And he ended up figuring out that the sweet spot was targeting Gen X folks, and really helping them deal with the challenges of midlife. And I remember I reached out to him and I was like, hey, I love Further. And I saw a lot of parallels between what he was doing in Further and, some of the stuff. I actually started a site for, this whole idea of pride and humility. I, combine the two words into Primility. And I had actually started a site, kind of exploring that idea. And I really saw some synergy there. And so I was like, hey, I'd love to work with you on Further. And he's like, great, hold that thought. Let's work on Unemployable instead. And that's how he and I started working together again. But Further is now, under the umbrella of Movement Ventures, so we're all working together on it. And, the idea of Well and Wealthy is, let's create a community for the folks in Further, who are, around Gen X. They're dealing with the challenges of midlife. They have kids that they're trying to get off to college, but they also may now have responsibility for taking care of their parents. There's a lot of challenges on their time and on their finances. How do they deal with these challenges and, come out on the other side thriving? And, so we talk a lot about health span and wealth span. People are, hopefully going to live longer now, but what does that mean if you're not healthy enough to enjoy it? And if you're not, wealthy enough to, at least be able to live a comfortable life that aligns with your values? And so our goal with Well and Wealthy is to bring folks together who want a place to continue to learn and explore these ideas, but also get the power of group accountability. And so the first thing that we're doing is a health span challenge, basically a fitness challenge. Krista Stryker of 12-Minute Athlete is, kind of leading this, and it's, 3 months long, and it's kind of a challenge where basically every week you commit to moving for 30 minutes, 5 days a week. And we're incorporating our Move coin. So if you do that, you get Move rewards, and, there's accountability meetings. And it's just for someone like me, who really fell out of exercising after last year when my son was born, it's been a great kick in the butt to get back to moving regularly. And so that's the goal for Well and Wealthy, is let's bring together people who are at a similar stage of life, dealing with some similar challenges, and let's kind of reframe that into, hey, let's learn good ways to deal with these challenges, and let's get some group accountability, to day by day, get better at whatever we're trying to get better at. And Trudy Roth, our other partner at Movement Ventures, is the one who's running this. And if you have at all enjoyed having Brian on the show, and if you've at all enjoyed having me on this show, she is 10 times as entertaining as the two of us combined.
I
would highly recommend Trudy.
I think there's a negotiation going on, which is, I tell you what, I see your Trudy Roth, and I raise you a CEX live show series.
Okay, all right. I see where I like how you think.
but it's actually Wellness Wednesday, so we're going to go to Whitney Lauritsen, who's also she has the Well coin on Rally. But before we do, one of the things that I've been teaching my students, I'm teaching principles of marketing, is the fact that instead of now looking at people as demographics, baby boomers, Gen X, greatest generation ever, Gen Y, Gen Z, etc. What we found, certainly with millennials, and studies have shown, is that they actually act like everyone else when they have a baby, when they get a mortgage, when they buy a house, when, so it's more about lifestyle and life stage, as opposed to being able to bucket someone into a massive generational group, based on this is how you should act because you are, label. So let's hear what Whitney has to say, and then we'll wrap it up. There is an after show afterwards, which hopefully Jerod will be able to attend. But let's hear what Whitney has to say.
My tip today is one of my favorite pieces of advice for supporting yourself throughout the day. This has done wonders for me, and I'm actually implementing it right now because I was feeling a little bit stressed. I needed to reduce it, take hold of the anxiety I was feeling so that I could focus on getting my work done for the day. And that helped me tune into my senses, specifically the 5 senses. So what I do is set up something on my desk for each of the senses. So number 1, my favorite thing and my go-to is finding some music, something to listen to, or it could be sounds. I really love binaural beats. I love frequencies. I love focus music. I'll just look those up on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, whatever you use. Turn it on at a low volume, and it really helps me reduce that stress and focus on my work. My second favorite thing to do is for my sense of smell. I'm a really big fan of aromatherapy, so I usually have something, at least one thing on my desk that smells really good and helps calm me. Right now I have this misting spray. I will often have candles on my desk, just something that I can pick up and either spray in the air or hold up to my nose. Works wonders. If you're into aromatherapy, that is equally as helpful for me as music. The third thing is something that I can touch. I like to fiddle. It really helps me focus and also just calm any of my nerves, bring any of that intense energy out of my body. I have a variety of things on my desk at all times. Sometimes there's stones, like this is actually a necklace, which is helpful to carry around with me, but I also just keep it on my desk and I'll just feel the texture of the stone. I have a pen. I love the texture of this. I also like looking at it, so it's a nice visual. Same with the stone. And I have like various fiddling things. This is called a twiddle, I think. I'm obsessed with this. It's so great. Visuals on that note are also really helpful. I have a variety of eye-catching things. I'm also sitting and working in front of my window so I can look outside and connect with nature, the trees in the distance, the clouds in the sky. I'll put little pieces of artwork around of my favorite colors, things that bring me joy and just help me ground myself. And lastly, and perhaps one of our favorite senses, is our sense of taste. This one I don't focus as much on, but sometimes I'll have gum around or a mint, something that I can just kind of enjoy really quickly. Chocolate is fantastic though, especially if you love chocolate. You could have little pieces of chocolate or a chocolate bar nearby, and just taking out a piece of it and letting it melt in your mouth really slowly helps you get incredibly present and calms you down. Plus, chocolate lights us up. It really does something to our brains. If you don't like chocolate, find something that you enjoy that is shelf stable or nearby your desk that you can enjoy, maybe a piece of fruit, and just take the time to think of at least one of your senses and something that you could keep nearby. So whenever you feel anxious, stressed, frustrated, unfocused, you can reach for it quickly during a meeting or when you're taking a break. And I would love to know how that goes for you. So reach out to me anytime. Tell me how things are going. I'm at Whit Lauritsen on Twitter and most social media. And I'll be back again next week for another tip. Hope this one helps.
I can't imagine she's ever stressed or anxious because she's the most calming person in the world. And I love that tip and proud to be on the Rally Network with her. If who else is on the Rally Network is Shom, or I Shom as in dollar home. The back home network. Are you ready to go home? Because you can go home, but you can't move back home because there's a move coin, there is a home coin. But if you move home, you're back living in the basement of mom and pop, and Raul Ibanez is coming for you.
That's right. That's right. He will get you in your mama's basement. No doubt about it.
So if you, by the way, want to check out Jerod's community, Well and Wealthy, whether you're, in midlife or just, maybe for me, I'd like to say I'm in midlife, which would make me about 10 years younger, which I'll take. You can go to further.net/well and wealthy, support the move coin, support the home coin. You can also just go to rally.io/creator, and you can punch in whether it's move, whether it's home, whether it's Jaffe. Together we are rising. Follow Jerod on the Twitter at Jerod Morris, and of course discourse with him in Discord. Even though, you know, by his admission, he's not as active as he was, which means he's not as influential as he was, but he will get back there, no doubt. Jerod, real pleasure meeting you and doing this with you. And we'll give the Discord a whirl right now. Come on into the Discord and hang out with us for a few minutes if you have any questions. One person who will hopefully join us today in the Discord is Chuck Norris. And here's what Chuck had to say about you today, Jerod.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
There we go. And I will see you guys tomorrow or in Discord right now. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show, and if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.